The auction block reeked of desperation and broken dreams. Captain Marcus Chen stood at the edge of the crowded marketplace on Nexus Prime, his weathered hands clenched into fists as he watched the spectacle unfold. The slavers, hulking Vorthak, with their chitinous armor and cruel mandibles, jeered and clicked their approval as another lot was dragged onto the platform. Then she appeared. The young Falari couldn't have been more than 16 standard years old. Her azure fur was matted and dirty, her large amber eyes wide with terror. The delicate feline features that marked her species were marred by bruises, and her small hands were bound with energy shackles that sparked cruelly against her wrists. She stumbled, falling to her knees on the platform, and the crowd of buyers erupted in laughter. "Fresh from the outer colonies!" the auctioneer bellowed, his translator device crackling. "Prime breeding stock! Look at those reflexes, those enhanced senses. Perfect for mining operations or entertainment purposes." The girl, Kira, according to the manifest Marcus had glimpsed, lifted her head. Their eyes met across the sea of alien faces, and something inside the human captain's chest twisted painfully. He saw himself in those eyes, remembered another time, another place, when he'd been just as helpless and afraid. "Bidding starts at 5,000 credits, the auctioneer announced. A hegemony overseer raised a mechanical appendage. 5,000. 7,000, came another voice from the crowd. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. 7,000 credits. That was everything he had. His ship's fuel money, the crew's wages for the next 3 months, the down payment on the mining rights that would finally make him legitimate. His whole future, compressed into a number that these monsters threw around casually. The bidding climbed higher. 10,000. 12. 15. Kira's shoulders shook as she wept silently, her tears cutting clean tracks through the grime on her face. The Vorthak guards found this amusing, poking her with shock prods to make her flinch for the crowd's entertainment. Marcus closed his eyes and saw his younger sister Sarah, taken by raiders when he was just a boy on the frontier world of Kepler 442b. He'd been too weak then, too young to save her. The colonial authority had written it off as acceptable losses in contested space. He'd spent 15 years building himself up, earning enough to matter, to make a difference. And here was his chance. 20,000, he called out, his voice cutting through the din. The crowd turned to stare at him, a lone human in a sea of predators. The Vorthak slavers chittered with amusement at his audacity. 25! Countered the hegemony overseer, his optical sensors focusing on Marcus with interest. Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs. 25,000, more than his ship was worth, more than he could possibly afford. But he thought of Sarah, of all the others he hadn't been able to save, and made his choice. 50,000 credits, he said quietly, but his voice carried in the sudden silence. The marketplace erupted. Aliens of a dozen species turned to gawk at the human who had just bid an astronomical sum on a single slave. The hegemony overseer's mechanical parts whirred as he calculated, then slowly lowered his bid paddle. 50,000 going once, the auctioneer announced, clearly delighted. Going twice. Kira looked up at Marcus with something that might have been hope flickering in her amber eyes. Sold to the human. The transaction was swift and brutal in its efficiency. Marcus transferred everything, his savings, his ship's operational fund, even his emergency reserves. His account balance dropped to triple digits, enough for maybe a week's worth of basic rations. As the energy shackles were removed from Kira's wrists, Marcus approached the platform. She shrank back initially, but something in his weathered face seemed to reassure her. It's all right, he said gently, extending his hand. I'm not going to hurt you. She took his hand with trembling fingers, and he helped her down from the auction block. The crowd was already dispersing, moving on to the next lot, the next tragedy. Why? She whispered in heavily accented standard. Why did you— I am nothing. Nobody. Marcus looked down at her, this brave young soul who had endured horrors he could barely imagine, and felt something shift inside him. Purpose, maybe. Or redemption. Because, he said simply, everyone deserves a chance to be free. They walked through the marketplace together, past the sneering faces and predatory stares. Marcus's ship, the Wanderer, waited at the docking bay, her hull scarred by years of hard use but still space-worthy. Barely. As they reached the ship, Kira turned to him again. What happens now? You spent everything for me. I have nothing to give you in return. Marcus keyed open the airlock and gestured her aboard. You don't owe me anything, but if you want to stay, I could use a crew member. The pay's not much. Well, it's nothing right now, but it's honest work, and it's free. For the first time since he'd seen her, Kira smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her look young and hopeful instead of broken and afraid. I would like that very much. Captain, as the Wanderer lifted off from Nexus Prime, Marcus sat in his pilot's chair and stared out at the stars. His bank account was empty, his fuel gauge was dropping toward red, and he had no idea how he was going to keep his ship running. But beside him, Kira was learning to operate the navigation console, her natural Falari reflexes making her a quick study. She was free, she was safe, and she was alive. And sometimes, Marcus reflected as he set course for the frontier, that was worth everything.